watching the Reed Center Cooking Show. We're coming to you from the EVPL Library Studios, where our kitchen is always fully booked. I'm your host, Carissa Ricketts. Today's episode is all about fandoms, so if you keep watching, you may find a recipe from your favorite fandom to cook during your next movie marathon. I'm here with Stacy, lover of Doctor Who, Harry Potter, and Star Trek. She will be judging our contestants on 2 points: presentation and taste. Let's meet our contestants.
All right, everybody, before we get started with our cooking today, it's really important that we talk about safety in the kitchen. So, of course, we're gonna start out with washing our hands really well because we're making food for other people. Then, if you've got long hair like me, you're gonna wanna put it back and out of your way. Whenever you're using the oven, you're always gonna wanna make sure that you're safe and that you have adult help if you need it. And the same goes for anything sharp, any kind of chemicals, anything that could potentially be dangerous.
All right, and we're back with Audra. What are you making for us today, Audra?
Today we're going to be making a ratatouille made famous by Disney Pixar.
Sounds fun. I can't wait to try it.
All right, everybody, I'm Audra, and today I'm going to be making a ratatouille. It's been made famous by Disney's Pixar movie, Ratatouille. You may remember it, where Remy, our favorite character, dreams of being a chef. So ratatouille is a French dish, and you can make it with a lot of different vegetables. It's actually a vegan-friendly dish. It's got no dairy in it, so it's something that's great to take to a potluck or to a family dinner. So you can put whatever you like in it. It's up to you. But some of the common vegetables that you put in it are eggplants, zucchinis, tomatoes, onions, and peppers. I'm going with all of those today, along with a yellow squash. When you pick out your vegetables, you want to try to get ones that are the same size. So my zucchini and my squash are about the same around, and that's going to matter later with our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and chop all of these up and lay them out on my counter before moving to the next step. All right, so we want to do about 1/16 of an inch slices. Not too thin, but not too thick so that they can really crisp up in the oven. So like I said before, you try to pick vegetables that are about the same size, but you may run into this problem. Eggplants are definitely having a good growing season this year, and these slices are way bigger than my other veggie slices. Now, if you're okay with this, you can use the whole slice, but if you're really going for that presentation like we do here in Reed, you can get a punch that's about the same size as your other slices, and you can actually cut them down by punching them out with that. Now that looks a little bit better. So these are now the same size as all of my other veggies, and I will save this extra bit for the sauce. All right, so we've got some of our veggies chopped up here. Doesn't that look like a delicious rainbow? So with our peppers and our onion, we are going to do dicing instead of slicing. And those are going to go into a stovetop safe pot because we're going to saute them in a few minutes. All right, so we've got our onions and all of our peppers in our stovetop safe pan, and I've got that on top of about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So we're going to add a little bit of garlic before we put it on the stove. Stir it up really well. And we're gonna let this saute for about 10 minutes or until everything's really nice and soft. Keeping an eye on that while it's on the stove, we're gonna chop up about 8 to 10 leaves of our fresh basil here. That'll go into our sauce. All right, we've got our onions, our red and yellow peppers, and our garlic sauteed down here. And we are ready to add our crushed tomatoes. Now, it takes a whole can. So this one is 28 ounces. We are gonna add that in. Stir it up good. Get all those veggies mixed in there. Okay, we're gonna sprinkle our basil on top here. And then just a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Look at all those colors, even just in our sauce. We're gonna add this back onto the stovetop heat for just a few more minutes, and then we'll be ready to put everything together. All right, everybody, our sauce is all finished and it smells delicious. Now we are gonna pour this into the bottom of our oven-safe pan. And then we are going to smooth it out. All right, we're ready to put our veggies on top. So to make our ratatouille as colorful as possible, we are going to alternate our vegetables. So I think that I will start with an eggplant with our purple, and then we'll do a tomato with our red, zucchini with our green, and a yellow squash. You are going to stand these up around the outsides, and we are going to go all the way around in a circle in the bottom of our pan. All right, we've been all around our dish, and doesn't that look delicious? There's just one step left before we get it in the oven. We're gonna make an herb seasoning just to drizzle around the top. So again, we've got our fresh basil. We're gonna chop up a few leaves of that. And we're just gonna throw that into a smaller bowl here. We're gonna do about the same amount, about 2 teaspoons in the end of parsley and about half that amount of thyme. Now this thyme and parsley was actually picked fresh today from our reed garden here at Central Library. We're growing a lot of vegetables this summer to make salsa with. So even some of the vegetables that we use today. In fact, all of the vegetables that we use today in our ratatouille grow really well here in Indiana. So this is something that you can make from scratch, start to finish at home. Okay, we've got our thyme here. We're just gonna pull those leaves off straight into our bowl. Just kind of go against that vine in the middle. And again, about half the amount of the parsley and basil that you put in there. Okay, now that we've got all our fresh herbs, we are almost done. We are just gonna need 4 tablespoons of olive oil, just a little bit more garlic goes into this, about half a tablespoon, and just a dash of salt and pepper. Smells so fresh. After we get it good and mixed, we are just going to sprinkle it on top of our dish here. And if it sticks together, you can kind of spread it out. All right. And I think we're all ready to go. The good thing about ratatouille is it bakes for quite a while. So you can put it in the oven while you're cleaning up all of your dishes. We're gonna cover it in foil and put it into the oven for about 40 minutes. Make sure you get it on there nice and tight. We wanna chop that heat in. After those 40 minutes, we're gonna take the foil off and check it and put it back for another 20. And that's gonna help those vegetables really crisp up, and it's gonna burn a little bit of that sauce off of the bottom, so it's not too soupy. So we'll put this in the oven and we will be back with the finished result. All right, folks, after an hour in the oven, here we are. fresh baked ratatouille, and it smells delicious.
Hi, we're back with Christina. What fancy fandom snack are you making for us today?
We are making blue milk macarons from The Mandalorian.
Wow, should be exciting.
All right, so for fandom cooking, I'm going to show you how to make blue milk macarons, which were recently seen on The Mandalorian. And turns out macarons are very persnickety to make. So I have a cup of almond flour and a cup of powdered sugar that I ran through my food processor at home. So, and also sifted, so they are good to go. I'm gonna put that in one bowl. Okay, now I need to get some egg whites. So you can use the traditional method and strain them with the eggshell, but I find that difficult, so I'm just gonna use my hands. Okay, so I'm gonna pour the egg whites in here and whisk them for several minutes until they get foamy. Okay, so ideally you would have stiff peaks, and this is not doing that for me right now, but I'm gonna keep going to show you the rest of the process. So we add half a teaspoon of vanilla. And a couple of drops of blue food dye to make them look like the ones that Baby Yoda stole. Okay, once your meringue is ready, then put in your mixture of almond flour and powdered sugar. And the method for macarons, you can't just stir. There's a special folding method, and you have to count the number of times you fold. It's usually 35 to 45 times to mix it fully. So you go around and through, and that counts as one fold. Now we have to pipe the macaron batter onto our cookie sheet that has parchment paper on it. So I have a piping bag, which if you don't have one of these at home, you could probably use a Ziploc, and it would be a good substitute. Alright, so trim the tip off. I've got a number 12 tip. Fold the bag over so you have something to hang on to that's not full of batter. I'm going to set it in this cup so I can fill it more easily. Once you have a little dough in there, once you have a little batter in there, twist your bag shut. You want to make little circles. You can vary the size if you want, however big or small you'd like them to be. And put them about 1 inch apart on your parchment paper. So they look something like that. Then once you have a whole tray full, to get air bubbles out, you need to drop the tray on the counter 3 or 4 times, which is really loud. So that's a very important step. It pops a lot of the air bubbles. Then you set the tray aside for about 30 or 40 minutes before you put it in the oven. And I'm not going to bake these right now because of time constraints, but I have some that I made previously so I can show you the next step in the process. Okay, so here we have some of my first attempts at the macarons. And some of them turned out okay. They're a little on the small side.
But the next step is to make some buttercream frosting, which I already have some prepared, but it's pretty simple. You just use butter, sugar, heavy cream, vanilla, and of course the blue food dye. So then you take the second bag and you fill it with raspberry jam. So I'm just gonna do a couple so you can get the idea. So you take your cookie and you do a ring of buttercream. Mine is really cold at the moment, so it's not working super great. But you do a ring of buttercream and then put a little bit of raspberry jam in the center and squish another one on top to make a little sandwich. So I'll do another one just so you can see it again. And there you go. You have little macarons just like Grogu in Mandalorian.
Okay, Claire, what fantastical fandom treat are you making for us today?
So today we are going to make Lambus Bread, which is found in J.R.R. Tolkien's books, so like the Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I'm ready for some second breakfast. Let's go.
Today for Fandom cooking, I'm going to be making Lambus Bread. Lambus Bread, which is also called whey bread, is a treat made by the elves in J.R.R. Tolkien's books. Pocket-sized and exceedingly nutritious, this treat was perfect for long journeys, just like Frodo and Sam's journey to destroy Sauron's ring. So let's get started. So to start, you're gonna take 2.5 cups of flour, and we are gonna take 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So we are just gonna whisk our dry ingredients together and make sure those are all mixed up. So once we have all our dry ingredients, flour, salt, and baking powder mixed in together, we are gonna take 1 stick of butter and add that to the mixture. And you're going to want to use an electric mixer to mix this together. So we've kind of got that mixed up. You can see it's still super dry. And honestly, the best way to do this as we add more ingredients is to use your hands and knead it like bread dough. So we are going to mix in our brown sugar and our cinnamon now. We need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I like to add a little extra because I like the flavor of cinnamon, so you can add as much as you want. Like I'm literally putting it in this teaspoon measurement, but also just letting it fall over. Because again, I like extra. All right, we are now going to add 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. So you can pack that down in your measuring cup if you really want to be accurate with it. So now we're gonna take our mixer again and kind of mix that up. So we are going to add, again, a 2/3 of a cup of heavy whipping cream. And we are going to add a dash of honey. They say like 1/2 teaspoon. You can just kind of eyeball it. I've got my little honey bear here, so I'm just gonna put a little bit in. This just gives it a little extra sweetness. And then we are going to mix that up. So as you can see, we're very crumbly now. This is a really dry dense bread. So I suggest going in with your hands and mixing up all the ingredients as much as you can until it forms a dough. If there are any chunks of flour or brown sugar in there, make sure you try and get those mixed up. So once you have a dough formed, you are going to take your rolling pin and roll it out to about a 1/2 inch thick. So once you have your dough rolled out, you are going to cut it into 3-inch squares. You can vary the size. I made all different sizes, but basically just make sure you're cutting in a square shape if you want to be accurate with your Lord of the Rings recreation. You can see I made much larger squares because my friends and I are very hungry hobbits, so I like them to be a little larger. Once you have them cut out into squares, you're going to score the tops lightly in a crisscross pattern from one edge to the other. This just makes them a little bit prettier, but also allows you to break off pieces so you can eat in smaller bites. All right, so once we have the top scored, you are going to pop these in the oven at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes. And now we have our completed lambus bread. As you can see, they're very dense and thick. Perfect for those long journeys across Middle Earth. So if you want to go the extra mile like Sam and Frodo, you can put these in little leaves. I just used paper to make them and wrapped them up in twine to give them that authentic Lord of the Rings feel. You could also use banana or palm leaves if you wanted to be even more authentic. So I am going to take a bite of these delicious breads. Very delicious and very nutritious. I don't actually know how nutritious these are. Probably not very. But they will fuel you on your journey through Middle Earth.
Okay, Miss Stacy, your first treat, lambus bread.
Oh, how pretty. Oh, look at the leaves. Oh, that's very, very authentic to the movie, I think. Yeah, let's see if I can. Oh, that's neat. Mmm. I like that flavor. Oh, that's yummy. Thank you.
Just get that to the side. Some lovely ratatouille for you.
Oh, a Disney classic, right? Mm. Oh, that is very flavorful. Very, very flavorful. Okay.
And your final dish, blue milk macarons.
Blue milk macarons. Would that be a Star Wars thing?
That would be a Star Wars Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Okay. I remember Luke with the blue milk in the first one. Oh, those are just airy and fluffy. Mmm. Mmm. All right, it's easy to say we have a winner here, but in all fairness, the ratatouille was very savory. Lambus bread, wonderful. Bonus points on presentation. But oh, I'm gonna finish this macaron. Delicious. It's a winner.
I should say we definitely have a winner there. All right, I'm here with this week's winner, Christina. Christina, what made you decide to choose a recipe from the Star Wars fandom?
I've always been a huge fan of Star Wars, and this was my opportunity to make something I'd seen on the screen.
All right, how did you find your experience making the macarons?
Heartrending. It's macarons are extraordinarily difficult to make, and I learned that in this process.
Good to know. So remember that if you ever decide to make macarons.